Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 35 of Crossing the Line with Greg Heym. Now with a little bit more Greg Heym. I had a big meal last night. And we always talk about numbers and songs, and this came up to me because this song has a special meaning in my heart. There's a Joe Jackson song, 19 Forever. It actually came out the year I turned 19. And the line is, you better believe it, you know my dream's still alive, you can love it or leave it, but I'm never going to be 35. Well, we blew that because we made it to 35 episodes. So congratulations to us. That's right, Ray. That's great. We're here in Studio 1873, our home, decorated by our good friends at the Everset.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
And we're here with Lisa Ray.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we have Ray and Hannah off camera heckling us. So how was the weekend?
Quiet.
Okay.
This was a stay-at-home, hang out, get things done weekend.
Well, for me, it was get my son ready for his gig at Gusto Divino last night, and he did a wonderful job playing a set. And I did something I said I would never do. I actually sang.
Really?
Somebody at a jazz jam wanted to hear Sweet Caroline, and nobody would sing it. So
you did.
They were going to play it instrumentally. I think that would have annoyed me more than somebody saw.
And I missed that gig.
Well,
I could have filmed that for posterity.
I did film it accidentally, but
Did you?
yeah, that footage is under lock and key now.
Well,
It wasn't that bad.
I'm sure we'll find it.
I just, as a Yankee fan, anything that reminds you of the Red Sox, you can't tolerate. So today is August 5th. It's going to be a scorcher here, but stocks are tanking by the minute while we're doing this. We'll get into that in a little bit. But hopefully by the time this goes to print or video and you watch it, things will all be calm. But
Sure, we can hope.
we have a little panic for you today. And ironically, today, we look at what day it is. And one of the things celebrated today is National Work Like a Dog Day. So we're all going to, get amped up on Alpo or whatever. And, we're going to bark at random things. And
All right.
so let's get right to it. And we're not going to talk about all the terrible things going on with stocks and why that's the case just yet. We're going to start with a positive story.
Well, the positive, the pending home sales, they surged 4.8%.
In June alone.
In June alone, which is a big number.
So pending home sales are pending, which means they haven't closed yet. It's based on contract signs. So, it's pretty current data. Now the data is for June. It comes out kind of late, but it's more about what's happening now. When we look at existing home sales, that's based on closings, which are based on contracts signed several months before that. So this, again, is a positive number because we've seen the closings have been down.
Yes.
We keep blaming on inventory, but inventory's going up. It's more about affordability, I think, than anything right now. So how did this happen? How did we get this good news? Mortgage rates have been drifting a little bit lower since May, but that's not really what it is. National Association of Realtors Chief Economist Lawrence Yun credited the recent rise in supply, which is up 23% over the past year. And to paraphrase what he said, basically more inventory is leading to more contract signings. You don't see the bidding wars to the same extent. They're still going on. But this also puts buyers in a better position. The things we learned in economics school, more inventory, that's a good thing and then should keep prices in check. The frustrating part is as sales have slowed down, rates haven't really come down much, prices still keep going up. It seems like the exact opposite of what you would think would happen with the prior two conditions, but markets take time to change. And now that supply is moving in the right direction, which means a lot more of it, if we get mortgage rates to follow, we'll be on all cylinders, ready to go.
The healthy fall season.
Right. Well, we don't have to wait till fall. We if June's any indicator, maybe July was even better. Who knows?
We're going to see.
I think that, the demand is still there. The need is still there. There's been a lot of frustration. And as we've been saying on the show for a long time, things change. We had my son and his crazy cousins on, they were worried about buying a home. I said, markets change, rates change, prices change, So patience is a virtue. Elisa would say it's one I don't have, right? I'm working on it, Sometimes you have to wait, a big decision.
Well, it's probably one of the biggest purchases people make in their
I
life.
think it's the biggest, unless you're buying, artwork or planes or stuff like that. I don't know, it's hard to imagine what most people could spend more on, but you got to find the right place. Well, luckily guitars aren't that expensive, so I'm okay there.
Except you have how many of them?
I just sold one to my nephew at a bargain basement price because
right, that's right.
It's a better guitar for him anyway. He's a shredder. He plays really fast. I'm too old for that. So
and I got to hear him play. It's very good.
Yeah, you got to hear him play at my gig
because
I'm a great uncle and I do that stuff. So anyhow, now this data came out and we said, oh, this is great. And then Friday came and the jobs report came out, which kind of changed the world.
A little bit.
But the interesting thing is on Friday, because of the blowback to the report and the concern about recession, which we'll get into in a minute, rates fell to their lowest level since April of 23. So for you buyers out there, I know they're saying now that they're coming down, you're like, well, I'm going to wait till they get really lower. I think you probably want to take another look pretty quickly because supply has been rising, but we're still not oversupplied in most parts of the country. So if you've been waiting and it's been a little out of your budget, you want to take another look now. I think you might be happy. But before we get to the jobs report, we're going to take a break from an important message.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business, and it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.
And we're back. Still not happy with my "we're back" voice. I got to work on that.
Okay.
So speaking of that jobs report, you had to wait that whole commercial to say, what is Greg going to say about it? So,
well, it wasn't great.
It wasn't?
It was not so great.
Well, why don't you give us the details and then we'll dissect it a little bit further.
All right, I'll let you.
And I'll let you know how great or ungreat it is.
Well, it was only 114,000, which was well below what the expectations were. They've also revised down the last 2 months, so neither of which are good. Clearly, the stock market reacted to that not well Friday or this morning. And again, we don't know what it's doing
I'm not
right
looking.
now.
I'm not looking.
We shouldn't look. But employment is still at its historic lows. It's 4.3%.
Unemployment. Yeah, so all right, let's dissect this. So
dissect away.
People might hear, well, we added 114,000 jobs. What do you want, Greg? What's wrong with you? Well, I'm okay with it if that was just all we had to take away from the report. But since the expectation was 185,000, it's a big miss. And as you mentioned, and we've seen to mention every month, when the prior data gets revised down, that makes it even worse because then it's really, a miss. Because if you're revising the prior months lower and then you're going below forecast, then that's really a weak gain. And if you remember, my loyal listeners and viewers, I've been saying the last couple of months that even though the headline job growth has been really good, if you looked at the details, it was not so good, not such a big reason to celebrate. And one of the things we've been pointing out is the data from the household survey. You remember the payroll survey is where they get the number of jobs added. The household survey is the unemployment rate. But the household survey also tracks whether they're full-time or part-time jobs. And what the household survey has been saying for a while now is all the jobs being added are part-time jobs. Over the last year, all of them. And that's scary because it implies one of two things or both is happening. One, companies are a little worried about the future, so they're hiring part-timers. And two, the inflation that's been weighing down the consumer is causing people to get second jobs. And that number has been going up a little bit. So certainly that's part of the problem here. But I think, the weird thing is the number of job openings out there is still really high, but that data lags about 2 months, so we can't put a lot of stock in that. But you mentioned the unemployment rate, and this is where, it kind of mirrors inflation. I'll try to draw that connection because I know you're dying to know what that is.
I definitely am.
The unemployment rate is 4.3%. Again, Greg, what's your problem?
It's
114,000 jobs added, a 4.3 unemployment. Just shut up and be happy with it. No. It's the highest unemployment rate since October of 21. Problem number one. Problem number two. A year ago, the unemployment rate was 3.5%. So it's up almost 1% in the last 12 months. So the thing is, like with inflation, you focus on the change. With inflation, the Fed has basically said, we don't have to get it down to 2%. As long as it's moving in the right direction, we're happy. This is the reverse of that. The unemployment rate is going up at a pretty fast pace. You need to look at that pace of the increase, not just write it off as well. It's 4.3. That's not a big deal. We'll worry about it when it's 5 because it could be 5 pretty quickly. Claims for unemployment just hit their highest level in a year too. So, and people are taking longer to find jobs. Still, not the worst labor market we've seen, but as we also like to point out on the show, because it makes economics sound scary and important, every data point that comes out can start, a very happy market or a very upset market. And right now, the market is not very happy because this stuff, starts to make people worry about a recession and what that would mean. We'll talk about that in a minute. You mentioned the downward revisions. They were actually small compared to what they've been, but for May and June, a total of 29,000 jobs just disappeared. Wages up 0.2% in July and 3.6% higher than a year ago. So again, wages just slightly higher growth over the last year than inflation. That's good, but that spread keeps narrowing.
Right.
So that's when the labor market slows and wage growth is slowing, that is good for the fight against inflation because it's hard to imagine that inflation is going to ramp up at a time when hiring is slowing, people are getting smaller raises, and that would also in turn bring mortgage rates down. So that's all good until we get into a recession, then we feel very guilty.
Right.
Then I've been, I don't want to say joking because it makes me sound insensitive, but we've been pointing this out, like careful what you root for thing. I mean, again, it's a bad report, but isn't it kind of what we want? It's not a decline in employment, so maybe we shouldn't be so panicked.
I think the worry is the trend.
Right, and the magnitude of the increase in the unemployment rate is concerning, and we're going to go into that in a new rule that we all have to follow.
Oh, yes. We were talking about this morning.
Yes. So, we just want that slow cooling, that soft landing. And again, the Fed has never really been able to pull off one of these soft landings. It's never that easy. It always, when they've had really bad inflation, the latest example would have been in the early 80s, Paul Volcker, knowing he was going to have to cause a recession to get rid of inflation. It was much higher then.
Well, and I think that's what worries people now is that we're going to end up inadvertently causing an inflation, which doesn't help anything.
Causing a recession.
A recession. To break inflation, you're going to cause the recession. But how does that hurt everything else and consumers?
Well, you see how it hurts because the Dow tanked and stocks tanked on Friday. And so far this week, not starting off great.
No.
Again, good news for housing, but a recession would not be good news for housing. But recessions are really the only thing that cause resets in housing prices.
And necessary sometimes, unfortunately. As painful as it is sometimes necessary.
Well,
you hate to have them.
You have to reset things at some point or homes become unaffordable.
Well, let's hope it resets easily, softly.
Now,
just like the Fed.
In the disclaimer, a little bit of writing that maybe we'll put up one of these days. Greg's opinions are his own and don't listen to him. Yeah, it's one bad report. Are we panicking too much over one bad report? And I would say, what I usually say about these things, the stock market always overreacts. It's either way too happy or way too sad. There's no happy medium where they're like, it's okay. They go, no, stocks, let's sell everything. I think the problem is I can't just completely write it off because we've looked at the data, and again, all the hiring is part-time. There's a sharp rise in the unemployment rate. That's concerning. Layoffs are increasing. So the fact that things are still low, they're starting from like record lows. So then it's going to take a while till people notice like, oh, wait, really? It's like when rates started to go up when inflation got bad, and people are like, all right, mortgage rates are 3.5. That's okay. It's 4. And next thing you know, it's like 7.5. And you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
It's like we've gone back 20 years in time. So there is this thing called the Somm rule now, named for economist Claudia Somm. I'll try not to bore you with this because the first couple times I read it, I had to
read it about 3 times just to
kind
of get that.
3's the magic number here. Yeah. So basically, when the 3-month moving average, that's basically averaging the most recent 3 months. So that would be May, June, July.
I was trying to think the same thing. Okay,
May, June, July. I didn't want to go like this because then I would look bad.
I need
right?
that, but you need the fingers to count.
So they can't see the fingers if they're listening to it.
That is true.
So in a 3-month moving average of the unemployment rate is at least 0.5% higher than the 12-month low. So if you average up the last 3 months, it's 4.13%. The 12-month low, which was a year ago, was 3.5%. So that is more than 0.5% or 50 basis points. So Somm rule alert. And it from what everybody says, it has a 100% track record of being accurate. Now, before we all start panicking and selling everything, which is never a good idea, investment decisions should never be made out of fear. You should have a plan and stick to it.
And long-term goals.
Yes. Well, if you have short-term goals, you just make different investments. We've been fortunate enough that while mortgage rates have gone up, so have deposit rates, and so have money market rates and CDs. But when asked, Dr. Somm said, she doesn't necessarily believe we're in a recession yet. And the good news about the Fed hiking rates up as high as they did, over 5%, now they got plenty of room to cut. So that's nice, as Bill Murray said in Caddyshack. We got that going for us. So that's nice. There's also other things they can do, like all the stuff they had to undo the last 2 years. So speaking of the Fed, that goes to the third item, since we're seamlessly moving from item to item with the skill that only a trained podcaster / economist / jazz guitarist could do.
Mm-hmm. He got it all in.
I need a break.
I'm already, we're past all the notes that I've got.
Okay, well, I entitled this "See You in September" because it's a song.
Oh, okay.
I forgot the name of the artist, but it's not a great song. If we're thinking about songs about September, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's the best one.
So we're segueing into their next meeting.
Well, and important to remember, the Fed's decision in their meeting happened before Friday.
Right.
I would, we can guess that it probably would have changed their minds. Maybe. Obviously, we saw England Central Bank cut rates. Other banks have been cutting rates. But they left rates unchanged, but basically said 3 things. They're very happy with their progress on inflation. They're very happy with themselves.
Well, you got to do the pat on the back.
Unless inflation starts rising again, they'll start cutting rates in September, and they'll probably do 2 rate cuts. One in September, one in December is the current bet. But now that's all changed. People's expectations. Now they want 50 basis points or 0.5% in September because now they think the world's ending, because the economy really needs support. Remember that what they do in September is going to take till March or later to work because it's 6 months or more before changes in monetary policy really impact the economy. A noted analyst came out and said they need to have an emergency meeting right now and cut 50 basis points. That in particular, would smell like panic to markets who, I won't speak for the markets out there. I'll speak for myself. The Fed has a credibility issue because they're the ones that said this inflation was transitory and it was going to go away and shut up and don't worry about it. If they come out and be like, oh my God, we have to cut 50 basis, like, guys, make up your mind. You know, if you're going to be that quick with one lower than expected employment report, you should have just cut the 25 basis points and kept it calm. But, you know, hindsight is
always 20/20.
That's right. And since I don't have 20/20 anymore, I'm still close, but LASIK works well. I got many more years out of it than I thought.
Oh, good.
So we'll see what happens. You know, see if Jerome Powell, one of the Fed presidents, a former economist, has said that, don't worry, the Fed's got your back. We got this under control. We're going to take care of this. But those of us who could just remember back to early 22, you know, forgive us, Fed and Jay Powell, if we're a little skeptical that, you know, and look, yes, it's hard, but you took the job. Okay, it comes with that. You know, it's hard for me to do this podcast, but I said, all right, I'll do it. You know, it's hard because, yes, there isn't a playbook that they can just follow. Every time seems different. You know, when they say the economy still looks good, but that's typically what happens before a recession. The economy kind of peaks out, everything's looking good, and then either something like a financial crisis or a pandemic happens, or things start to change and move faster than anybody expects. So, yes, the Fed is always chasing this moving target. It's like, we got to hike, we got to hike, we got to hike. Okay, wait a minute, hikes are done. Now we got to decide when to cut. It's like, are we going to cut in September? And then the next, you know, like a day later, it's like, oh man, we should have just cut because now they're going to want us to cut. And so what can we take away from all this? Maybe I had too much caffeine this morning. I don't know. Relax. Home buyers out there, you know, do your thing. Look at your options. The homes have become more affordable. Take advantage of this. Don't look at your stocks. But, you know, it's a good time to get back in touch with, if you're working with a realtor, and just see what's out there. See what your money can get you now. Get more than what you thought.
Well, and with more on the market, more options, more choices.
Right. Also, you're buying a car, auto loans are going to go down.
Yeah.
So it's certainly, you know, what people may say out there as well. If their mortgage rates are already down this much, I'm going to wait. Time in the market never works. There are tens of thousands of people that get paid to tell you when to buy stocks. They don't get it right. And there's a million data points to do that. So, you know, just know what's out there. Know what your options are. Don't panic. I'm not panicking, am I?
No.
It's Monday morning. It's Friday's panic day. You know, that's the thing. When this stuff happens on Friday, people have the whole weekend to worry about it. And then the markets that opened before us kind of set the tone, and they were doing even worse.
Yes.
So we've got in 2 weeks, we start to get the PI brothers show up.
Oh, your favorites.
They're not my favorite. The core PCE is everybody's favorite. The PI brothers are just like, they're like your drinking buddies. You're like, the PI brothers come over, you hang out, you do some stuff. Core PCE is like him, as the kids like to say now. You know, core PCE walks in and it's like, I'm the definitive thing on everything. Right. Or her. Could be him or her. We're not sure. We haven't figured that out yet. And retail sales. Now, retail sales is the biggest thing in all of this because GDP is all about spending. And with 2/3 of GDP dependent on what Lisa spends, if Lisa's not. By the way, I didn't mention, you know, because I was going to mention clothes because you like to buy clothes. But this is the first color-coordinated episode we've had.
We'll work on that
we
again.
We do not plan this out ahead of time. We both just probably take whatever's on top or whatever I reach into the closet and grab. If it's not wrinkled,
that's a man's way to dress. Women are, you know, what's ironed, what do I need to iron, how hot is it going to be, what shoes am I putting on today? It's a little more complicated.
So what are you saying? Men can't handle an ensemble? We can't dress ourselves?
No.
Okay. You heard that, America. Okay, men can't. You know, when we wore suits and ties to work, it was actually a little bit easier. It's like, okay, charcoal suit, blue shirt, red tie, good to go. Don't think much about it. Now it's like, which polo shirt?
Right. So welcome to a woman's world where matching and coordinating and.
What does that have to do with economics, though?
Well, because I have to go spend money sometimes to, get shoes to match the outfits. So, my contribution to GDP.
All right. Well, we all have a contribution.
Listen, we all got to do our part.
We know that Ray likes to go to concerts. We know that Hannah loves books and shopping at the greatest mall in the history of the world. We don't even say its name because it's like the boogeyman comes out if you say it. But that former Xanadu, that's had its troubles. So before we close the show, tomorrow, or today if you're watching this tomorrow, August 6th is my son's 17th birthday. So
that's right. Happy birthday to Gregory.
He's been taller than me for a while now, especially if he had the mullet in. If you didn't see that episode 2 episodes ago, we had my son and his cousins on, and he was in full mullet mode. He says it came back. I can't argue because, I have no hair to speak of. So I do remember the 80s, but I don't. We're calling it the Uncle Jesse look. If you watch Full House, John Stamos said that mullet.
Yeah, that's right. It's
when I think mullets, I think Billy Ray Cyrus, and that does not have a good connotation. But
no.
Nobody misses him or Achy Breaky Heart.
Well, some people might.
But happy birthday, Gregory. Have a great one. Enjoy, or hopefully you enjoyed. And that's the show. Did we miss anything?
No, I don't think we missed a thing this week.
All right, you heard it. So if we missed anything,
it's all my fault.
Well, you can send your changes to ctl@bhsusa.com if you'd like to. And again, I know things are a little crazy right now, but one bad data point can be easily erased. Wall Street has a very short memory about these things. Just ride it out, and as somebody very smart once said, decisions made out of fear are always wrong. So just that's your moment of zen for this week. Oh. But thanks again for all your support. Thanks to Lisa Ray for co-piloting and to Ray. We have Lisa Ray and Ray. And we have Hannah sitting in today for Lena. Thanks to all your work. And thanks again to everybody out there for supporting the show. And have a great week.